Neto Niente is a former inmate notorious for his dark past. Neto, having spent years behind bars for some seriously grim deeds, we're talking about a body count of 371, including men, women, and even children, decides to make a dramatic change after his last crime, where remorse hits him like a ton of bricks. Feeling guilt-ridden after taking the life of a woman and a young boy, he turns himself into the police. Fast forward through Neto's prison stint, and he's granted parole, much to the chagrin of numerous police officers who are less than thrilled about the release of this infamous figure. Despite widespread disdain, Neto's ticket out is punched, thanks to the intervention of his pal Carl Abrahams, a fellow lawman. The police force is divided. Many believe someone with Neto's rap sheet should be behind bars for life, but the lack of sufficient evidence means he gets a limited sentence. As Neto steps back into the world, his future remains an enigma. Will he turn over a new leaf, or will he spiral back into his old criminal ways? One certainty remains: he's ready to go to any lengths for his 11-year-old son, Julio. On the day of his release, Neto is scooped up by Carl, a loyal old friend sticking close through thick and thin. And so, the saga unfolds with Neto's re-entry into the world beyond prison walls. Carl is willing to go the extra mile, splurging a considerable sum to secure Neto's release from prison, driven by a significant debt he owes to Neto. En route to the hotel where Neto will be staying, Carl promptly equips him with everything necessary for a fresh start: a cell phone, a car, a passport, and a cool $30,000. That night, as Neto was unwinding in his hotel room, the car alarm blared, prompting him to investigate. Unfortunately, stepping out led to an unexpected ambush by a squad of police officers wielding bats. Recognizing it as a ploy to drag him back behind bars, Neto refrained from resisting or retaliating against the police. The officers, fueled by disdain for Neto's dark past, believed redemption was out of the question. Post-beating, Neto returned to his room to tend to the bruises on his face and body. Come the next morning, Neto visited his ex-wife Nadia's house to reunite with his son, Julio, after years of separation. Upon seeing Neto, freshly released from prison, Julio joyfully sprinted to embrace him, radiating happiness at his father's presence. However, upon discovering that Neto won't share the living space, Julio becomes profoundly let down. He details the deterioration of their housing situation, attributing it to Nadia's boyfriend, Vincent, who consistently displays rudeness and frequently scolds them. Julio discloses that Vincent doesn't hesitate to resort to violence if Nadia makes a mistake. Concerned about Vincent's impending return, Julio urges Neto to quickly retreat to the hotel. Before departing, Neto manages to capture some pictures of Julio in the city. Reflecting on the photos, Neto recalls Julio's account of Vincent's behavior and decides to unveil Vincent's true identity. That evening, Neto visits a bar owned by his acquaintance Bailarin, a renowned gangster boss in Mexico, inquiring about Vincent's background. Bailarin reveals that Vincent is a relatively successful real estate entrepreneur who is also involved in illicit activities, collaborating with drug cartel factions in the arms smuggling domain. The following day, Neto discreetly tails Nadia to discover Vincent's base. After a lengthy journey, they reach an abandoned factory where Nadia enters to negotiate a monthly fee with Vincent. Upon Neto's arrival at his hotel, he discovered Julio patiently waiting outside his room. Without hesitation, he ushered Julio inside, allowing him to rest while they perused some photos Julio had taken. Later in the day, Neto drove Julio back to Nadia's residence before stopping at a parking lot to indulge in some burgers inside the car. Mid-meal, Nadia sent Neto a brief message, cautioning him to keep his distance from Julio due to potential threats from numerous adversaries. Despite reservations, Neto reluctantly complied, recognizing the impossibility of constantly safeguarding Julio. Suddenly, a group of men emerged, encircling Neto's car with guns pointed at him. Fearlessly, Neto locked eyes with the thugs and promptly engaged in combat when they opened fire. Despite facing multiple armed assailants simultaneously, Neto effortlessly overcame them, even successfully thwarting the escape attempt of one thug by destroying his car. In the evening, upon returning to the hotel, Neto received a call from Julio reporting an attack on their house. Reacting swiftly, Neto hurriedly drove to Nadia's residence to avert potential harm to Nadia and their son. Unfortunately, when Neto arrived, it was too late. Nadia lay lifeless on the floor, covered in blood. It dawned on him that the assailant behind this tragic act was none other than her partner, Vincent, with intentions to abduct Julio. A henchman of Vincent pointed a gun at Neto, warning him not to resist. Swiftly, Neto overcame the threat, disarming the henchman, sparking a showdown between them. Despite successfully defeating all of Vincent's men, Julio had already been taken away by Vincent in his car. As Vincent's vehicle disappeared, the police arrived, mistaking Neto as the culprit in Nadia's murder. Forced to flee, Neto found himself once again on the run from law enforcement. That night, beneath the overpass, Neto sought help from Carl to locate Vincent, now holding Julio captive. Carl, well connected with gangsters, suggested starting the search by meeting Jet Rink, one of Vincent's associates, known for dealing illegal arms. After receiving funds and a vehicle from Carl, Neto hurried to Jet Rink's nightclub. While at the club, Neto inquired with the female bartender, Inez, about Jet Rink's whereabouts. In response, she suggested approaching Jet Rink's girlfriend, Kali, to lead him to Jet Rink's residence. After providing Kali with some cash, she eventually agreed to guide him to Jet Rink's house and facilitate an introduction. Upon reaching Jet Rink's place, Neto assumed the role of one of Vincent's clients assigned to survey Jet Rink's weapon inventory. Jet Rink, however, quickly discerned Neto's deception, being a close friend of Vincent who knew his clientele. As Jet Rink prepared to open fire, Neto preemptively shot Jet Rink in the leg, deliberately aggravating the wound. After extracting information on Vincent's location, Neto seized some of Jet Rink's money and left the premises. Subsequently, Neto revisited the nightclub, seeking Inez's assistance by posing as his wife to cross the Mexican state border and reach Vincent's hideout. Unexpectedly, 3 assailants attacked Neto in the bathroom, but he easily subdued them. Convinced by a substantial sum of money, Inez agreed to help Neto, assuming the role of his wife in their endeavor. As fate would have it, they breezed through the border checkpoint, thanks to the distracted border police, who were perhaps too captivated by Inez's alluring charm. Once they reached an inn, Neto graciously allowed Inez to head home the next day, deeming her mission accomplished. However, upon realizing Neto's mission was driven by the desire to rescue his son, Inez, touched by the cause, decided to offer further assistance. For a doubled fee, she pledged to extract information from Vincent by playing the role of a potential apartment buyer with a seductive twist. In their initial encounter, Inez couldn't quite pry out much intel, but she saw potential for more at their next meeting. The following night, as Inez rendezvoused with Vincent at his main headquarters for a drink, things took an unexpected turn. Vincent, catching on to her true intentions, slapped her and menacingly aimed a gun at her head. Fortunately, just in the nick of time, Neto swooped in, eliminating every guard in Vincent's mansion before finally subduing and arresting him. With Vincent securely cuffed and tied to a chair, Neto unleashed a relentless interrogation, employing tactics like scalding with hot water, finger and nail cutting, and searing his hands with embers. Talk about turning the tables. Vincent, weakened by the torment, eventually spilled the beans to Neto, admitting that he had sold Julio to a notorious human trafficker named Sons, notorious for abducting well-known individuals. Vincent revealed he was compelled to resort to such actions due to mounting business debts. Upon learning Sons' identity, Neto promptly reached out to Bailarine to discover the whereabouts of Sons' human trafficking hub. Upon returning to the hotel, Neto urged Inez to head home, deeming the task too perilous for her safety. To his surprise, Inez insisted on assisting, driven by the desire to help Neto reunite with his son. The following day, at Sons' boxing gym, Neto inquired about Sons' whereabouts from several men. Unexpectedly, shortly after their arrival, they were ambushed, assaulted from behind, and swiftly abducted into a car. Inez's car departed first, while Neto's vehicle lagged behind. Despite being handcuffed, Neto skillfully overcame Sons' henchmen, seizing control of the steering wheel to pursue the car carrying Inez. After a lengthy pursuit, Neto eventually reached a hideout nestled in a forested area, pinpointing the location where Inez and other kidnapped victims were being held captive. Regrettably, Sons' henchmen once again apprehended Neto, presenting him before their leader, Sons. Upon Neto's arrival, Sons revealed Julio, suspended upside down over a well filled with chilly water. Sons clarified that acquiring Julio from Vincent wasn't happenstance but a calculated move to seek vengeance against Neto. Sons harbored a grudge for Neto's past deeds, particularly the merciless killing of his wife and son. Witnessing this, Neto resisted, sparking anger among Sons' men who aimed to end him. Surprisingly, Sons intervened, dispatching his own subordinates close to killing Neto. Sons spared Neto's life to ensure he witnessed Julio's demise. Following the demise of Sons' men, Sons approached Neto, compelling him to watch as Julio's lifeless body emerged from being submerged for several minutes. Summoning his last reserves of strength, Neto promptly dispatched Sons and liberated all the hostages, ultimately cradling Julio's lifeless form. The next day, after Neto laid his cherished son to rest with a proper burial, he opened the trunk of the car where he held Bailarine. It turned out that Bailarine was the informant who divulged information about Neto, his family, Vincent, and Julio to sons. Despite enduring these hardships, Neto found himself compelled to revert to his former life, one where he had to continue inflicting ruthless harm and death upon others. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell if you want to watch more videos like this. Thank you for watching and see you again soon. Take care.